Hello everyone, welcome back to this video, and we are going to start with the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita in this video. The second chapter is contents of the Gita summarized. So we'll begin by each shlok the way we did with the previous chapter, and let's start. So the first shlok of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjun full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudhana, Krishna spoke the following words. Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. Material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. Compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization. The word Madhusudhana is significant in this verse. Lord Krishna killed the demon Madhu, and now Arjun wanted Krishna to kill the demon of misunderstanding that had overtaken him in the discharge of his duty. No one knows where compassion should be applied. Compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless. A man fallen in the ocean of nescience cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outward dress, the gross material body. One who does not know this and laments for the outward dress is the one who is lamenting unnecessarily. Arjun was a Kshatriya, and this conduct was not expected from him. Lord Krishna, however, can dissipate the lamentation of the ignorant man, but for this purpose the Bhagavad Gita was sung by him. This chapter instructs us in self-realization by an analytical study of the material body and the spirit soul, as explained by the Supreme Authority, Lord Shri Krishna. This realization is possible when one works without attachment to fruitive results and is situated in the fixed conception of the real self. Now coming to the second shlok. Which is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets but to infamy. Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are identical. Therefore, Lord Krishna is referred to as Bhagwan throughout the Gita. Bhagwan is the ultimate in the absolute truth. The absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding, namely Brahman, or the impersonal, all-pervasive spirit; Paramatma, or the localized aspect of the Supreme within the heart of all living entities; and Bhagwan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this conception of the absolute truth is explained as follows. So the absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding by the knower of the absolute truth, and all of them are identical. Such phases of the absolute truth are expressed as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. These three divine aspects can be explained by the example of the sun, which also has three different aspects, namely the sunshine, the sun's surface, and the sun planet itself. One who studies the sunshine only is the preliminary student. One who understands the sun's surface is further advanced, and one who can enter into the sun planet is the highest. Ordinary students who are satisfied by simply understanding the sunshine, its universal pervasiveness, and the glaring effulgence of its impersonal nature may be compared to those who can realize only the Brahman feature of the absolute truth. The student who has advanced still further can know the sun disk, which is compared to knowledge of the Paramatma feature of the absolute truth. And the student who can enter into the heart of the sun planet is compared to those who realize the personal features of the supreme absolute truth. Therefore, the bhaktas or the transcendentalists who have realized the Bhagwan feature of the absolute truth are the topmost transcendentalists. Although all students who are engaged in the study of the absolute truth are engaged in the same subject matter. The sunshine, the sun disk, and the inner affairs of the sun planet cannot be separated from one another, and yet the students of the three different phases are not in the same category. The Sanskrit word Bhagwan is explained by the great authority Parasar Muni, the father of Vyasadeva. The Supreme Personality who possesses all riches, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge and all renunciation is called Bhagwan. There are many persons who are very rich, very powerful, very beautiful, very famous, very learned and very much detached. But no one can claim that he possesses all riches, all strength, etc. entirely. Only Krishna can claim this because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No living entity including Brahma, Lord Shiv or Narayan can possess opulences as fully as Krishna. Therefore it is concluded in the Brahman Samiti by Lord Brahma himself that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is equal to or above him. He is the primeval Lord or Bhagwan known as Govind, and he is the supreme cause of all causes. There are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagwan, but Krishna is the supreme because none can excel him. He is the supreme person and his body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. He is the primeval Lord Govind and the cause of all causes. In the Bhagavatam also, there is a list of many incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Krishna is described as the original personality of Godhead, from whom many incarnations and personalities of Godhead expand. All the list of the incarnations of Godhead submitted herewith are either plenary expansions or parts of the plenary expansions of the Supreme Godhead, but Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Therefore, Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, the source of both the Supersoul and the impersonal Brahman. In the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjun's lamentation for his kinsman is certainly unbecoming, and therefore Krishna expressed his surprise with the words, Kuta or where from? Such impurities were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. The word Aryan is applicable to persons who know the value of life and have a civilization based on spiritual realization. Persons who are led by the material conception of life do not know that the aim of life is realization of the absolute truth, Vishnu or Bhagwan, and they are captivated by the external features of the material world, and therefore they do not know what liberation is. Persons who have no knowledge of liberation from material bondage are non-Aryans. Although Arjun was a Kshatriya, he was deviating from his prescribed duties by declining to fight. This act of cowardice is described as befitting the non-Aryans. Such deviation from duty does not help one in the progress of spiritual life, nor does it even give one the opportunity to become famous in this world. Lord Krishna does not approve of the so-called compassion of Arjun for his kinsmen. So now coming to the third shloka of the Bhagavad Gita. O son of Partha, do not yield to this degrading importance. So Krishna is speaking to Arjun in this shloka. He says, it does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Now coming to the explanation of this shloka. Arjun was addressed as the son of Partha, who happened to be the sister of Krishna's father, Vasudeva. Therefore, Arjun had a blood relationship with Krishna. If a son of a Kshatriya declines to fight, he is a Kshatriya in name only, and if the son of a Brahman acts impiously, he is a Brahman in name only. Such Kshatriyas and Brahmans are unworthy sons of their fathers. Therefore, Krishna did not want Arjun to become an unworthy son of a Kshatriya. Arjun was the most intimate friend of Krishna, and Krishna was directly guiding him on the chariot. But in spite of all these credits, if Arjun abandoned the battle, he would be committing an infamous act. Therefore, Krishna said that such an attitude in Arjun did not fit his personality. Arjun might argue that he would give up the battle on the grounds of his magnanimous attitude for most of the respectable Bhisma and his relatives, but Krishna considered that sort of magnanimity mere weakness of heart. Such false magnanimity was not approved by any authority. Therefore, such magnanimity or so-called non-violence should be given up by persons like Arjun under the direct guidance of Krishna. Now coming to the fourth shlok. In this shlok, Arjun says to Lord Krishna, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counter-attack with arrows in battle men like Bhisma and Drona who are worthy of my worship? Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. So the respectable superiors like Bhisma the grandfather and Dronacharya the teacher are always worshipable. Even if they attack, they should not be counter-attacked. It is general etiquette that superiors are not to be offered even a verbal fight. Even if they are sometimes harsh in behavior, they should not be harshly treated. Then how is it possible for Arjun to counter-attack them? Would Krishna ever attack his own grandfather or his teacher? These were some of the arguments offered by Arjun to Krishna. Now coming to the fifth shlok. In this, Arjun continues, it would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. According to scriptural codes, a teacher who engages in an abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination is fit to be abandoned. Bhisma and Drona were obliged to take the side of Duryodhan because of his financial assistance, although they should not have accepted such a position simply on financial considerations. Under the circumstances, they have lost the respectability of teachers. But Arjun thinks that nevertheless they remain his superiors, and therefore to enjoy material profits after killing them would mean to enjoy spoils tainted with blood. Now coming to the sixth shlok. In this, Arjun continues, nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield. Arjun did not know whether he should fight and risk unnecessary violence, although fighting is the duty of the Kshatriyas, or whether he should refrain and live by begging. If he did not conquer the enemy, begging would be his only means of subsistence. Nor was there certainty of victory, because either side might emerge victorious. Even if victory awaited them and their cause was justified, still, if the sons of Dhritarashtra died in the battle, it would be very difficult to live in their absence. Under the circumstances, that would be another kind of defeat for them. All these considerations by Arjun definitely proved that not only was he a great devotee of the Lord, but he was also highly enlightened and had complete control over his mind and senses. His desire to live by begging, although he was born in a royal household, is another sign of detachment. He was truly virtuous, and these qualities combined with his faith in the words of instruction of Shri Krishna, who was his spiritual master, indicate his detachment. It is concluded that Arjun was quite fit for liberation. Unless the senses are controlled, there is no chance of elevation to the platform of knowledge, and without knowledge and devotion, there is no chance of liberation. Arjun was competent in all these attributes, over and above his enormous attributes in his material relationships. Now coming to the 7th shlok. So Arjun continues in this shlok. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So Arjun here is asking Krishna to instruct him because he is very confused. Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. By nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is the source of perplexity for everyone. In every step there is perplexity, and therefore it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. All Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexities of life, which happen without our desire. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, the world situation is such that perplexities of life automatically appear without our wanting such confusion. No one wants fire, and yet it takes place, and we become perplexed. The Vedic wisdom therefore advises that in order to solve the perplexities of life and to understand the science of the solution, one must approach a spiritual master who is in the disciplic succession. A person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. One should not therefore remain in material perplexities but should approach a spiritual master. This is the purport of this verse. Who is the man in material perplexities? It is he who does not understand the problems of life. The perplexed man is described as follows. He is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human and who thus quits this world like the cats and dogs without understanding the science of self-realization. This human form of life is the most valuable asset for the living entity, who can utilize it for solving the problems of life. Therefore, one who does not utilize this opportunity properly is a miser. On the other hand, there is the Brahman, or he who is intelligent enough to utilize this body to solve all the problems of life. The Kirpanas, or the miserly persons, waste their life in being overly affectionate for family, society, country, etc. in the material conception of life. One is often attached to family life on the basis of skin disease. The Kirpana thinks that he is able to protect his family members from death, or the Kirpana thinks that his family or society can save him from the verge of death. Such family attachment can also be found in the lower animals, who take care of children also. Being intelligent, Arjun could understand that his affection for family members and his wish to protect them from death were the causes of his perplexities. Although he could understand that his duty to fight was awaiting him, still, on account of miserly weakness, he could not discharge the duties. He is therefore asking Lord Krishna, the Supreme Spiritual Master, to make a definitive solution. He offers himself to Krishna as a disciple. He wants to stop friendly talks. Talks between the master and the disciple are serious. And now Arjun wants to talk very seriously before the recognized spiritual master. Krishna is therefore the original spiritual master of the science of Bhagavad Gita, and Arjun is the first disciple for understanding the Gita. How Arjun understands the Bhagavad Gita is stated in the Gita itself. There is no difference between Krishna's within and without, and one who has no sense of this understanding is the greatest fool in trying to understand Bhagavad Gita. Now coming to the 8th shlok, which says, I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. So Arjuna is speaking again to Lord Krishna. Now coming to the explanation of this shloka. Although Arjuna was putting forward so many arguments based on knowledge of the principles of religion and moral codes, it appears that he was unable to solve his real problem without the help of the spiritual master, Lord Shri Krishna. He could understand that his so-called knowledge was useless in driving away his problems, which were drying up his whole existence, and it was impossible for him to solve such perplexities without the help of a spiritual master like Lord Krishna. Academic knowledge, scholarship, high positions are all useless in solving the problems of life. Help can be given only by a spiritual master like Krishna. Therefore, the conclusion is that a spiritual master who is 100% Krishna conscious is a bona fide spiritual master, for he can solve the problems of life. Lord Chaitanya said that one who is the master in the science of Krishna consciousness, regardless of his social position, is the real spiritual master. It does not matter whether a person is a learned scholar in Vedic wisdom or is in the renounced order of life. If he is a master in the science of Krishna, he is the perfect and bona fide spiritual master. So without being a master in the science of Krishna consciousness, no one is bona fide spiritual master. It is also said in the Vedic literature that a scholarly person who is expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava or expert in the science of Krishna consciousness. The problems of material existence, birth, old age, disease and death cannot be counteracted by accumulation of wealth and economic development. In many parts of the world, there are states which are replete with all facilities of life, which are full of wealth and economically developed. Yet the problems of material existence are still present. They are seeking peace in different ways, but they can achieve real happiness only if they consult Krishna or the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which constitute the science of Krishna, through the bona fide representative of Krishna, the man in Krishna consciousness. If economic development and material comforts could drive away one's lamentation for family, social, national or international inebrities, then Arjuna would not have said that even an unrivaled kingdom on earth or supremacy like that of the demigods in the heavenly planets would be unable to drive away his lamentations. He sought therefore refuge in Krishna consciousness, and that is the right path for peace and harmony. Economic development or the supremacy over the world can be finished at any moment by the cataclysms of the material nature. Even elevation into the higher planetary situation, as men are now seeking on the moon planet, can also be finished at one stroke. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this. When the results of pious activities are finished, one falls down again from the peak of happiness to the lowest status of life. Many politicians of the world have fallen down in that way. Such downfalls only constitute more causes for lamentation. Therefore, if we want to curb lamentation for good, then we have to take shelter of Krishna, as Arjuna is seeking to do. So Arjuna asked Krishna to solve his problems definitely, and that is the way of Krishna consciousness. Now coming to the 9th shloka. In the 9th shloka, Sanjaya said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govind, I shall not fight, and fell silent. Now coming to the explanation of this shloka. Dhritarashtra must have been very glad to understand that Arjuna was not going to fight and was instead leaving the battlefield for the begging profession. But Sanjaya disappointed him again. in relating that Arjun was competent to kill his enemies. Although Arjun was for the time being overwhelmed with false grief due to family affection, he surrendered unto Krishna, the supreme spiritual master, as a disciple. This indicated that he would soon be free from the false lamentation resulting from family affection and would be enlightened with perfect knowledge of self-realization or Krishna consciousness and would then surely fight. Thus Dhritarashtra's joy would be frustrated since Arjun would be enlightened by Krishna and would fight to the end. Now coming to the 10th shloka, which says, O descendant of Bharat, at that time Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjun. Before we go to the words which Krishna spoke to Arjun, which is in the next shloka, we'll come to the explanation of this shloka. The talk was going on between intimate friends, namely Harsikesa and the Gudakesa, which is Krishna and Arjun. The way we discussed before in the previous chapter, Gudakesa means a person who has conquered sleep, and Arjun conquered sleep, so he's referred to as Gudakesa. As friends, both of them were going on the same level, but one of them voluntarily became a student of the other. Krishna was smiling because a friend has chosen to become a disciple. As Lord of all, he is always in the superior position as the master of everyone, and yet the Lord agrees to be a friend, a son or a lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role. But when he was accepted as the master, he at once assumed the role and talked with the disciple like the master, with gravity as it is required. It appears that the talk between the master and the disciple were openly exchanged in the presence of both armies, so that all were benefited. So the talks of Bhagavad Gita are not for any particular person, society or community, but they are for all, and friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them. Now coming to the 11th shloka. In this, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said to Arjun that while speaking learned words you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. The Lord at once took the position of the teacher and chastised the student, calling him indirectly a fool. The Lord said, You are talking like a learned man, but you do not know that one who is learned, one who knows what the body and what is soul, does not lament for any stage of the body, neither in the living nor in the dead condition. As explained in later chapters, it will be clear that knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. Arjun argues that religious principles should be given more importance than politics or sociology, but he did not know that knowledge of matter, soul and the supreme is even more important than religious formularies. And because he was lacking in that knowledge, he did not have posed himself as a very learned man. And he did not happen to be a very learned man. He was consequently lamenting for something which was unworthy of lamentation. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him there is no cause of lamentation regardless of the condition of the material body. Now coming to the 12th shloka, which says, Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Now coming to the explanation of this shloka. So this shloka is said by Krishna to Arjun, and he is explaining that there was never a time that Krishna did not exist, or when Arjun did not exist, or when any of the other people who were present there on the battlefield did not exist. And even in future, they will not cease to exist. Now coming to the explanation of this shloka. In the Vedas, in the Katha Upanishad, as well as in the Svetasvatara Upanishad, it is said that Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations according to individual work and reaction of work. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is also by his plenary portions alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. The same Vedic truth given to Arjuna is given to all persons in the world who pose themselves as very learned but factually have but a poor fund of knowledge. The Lord clearly says that He Himself, Arjuna, and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings, and that the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living entities, both in their conditioned and in their liberated situations. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Individual Person, and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal associate, and all the kings assembled there are individual eternal persons. It is not that they did not exist as individuals in the past, and it is not that they will not remain eternal persons. Their individuality existed in the past, and their individuality will continue in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause of lamentation for anyone. Now coming to the 13th Shloka of the second chapter. So, it says, as the embodied and soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Now coming to the explanation of this shloka. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhisma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. So Bhisma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause for lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a Dhira, or the most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. It is confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the Supreme exist eternally and are called Sara. That is, they have the tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he gives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the super soul who is present in each and every individual body and is known as Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level as it will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then the relationship of instructor and instructed become meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusionary energy Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity, and Arjun, who is a forgetful soul, is deluded by Maya. Now coming to the 14th Shloka. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception or scion of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So Krishna again is speaking to Arjuna in this shloka. Now coming to the explanation of this shloka. In the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. According to the Vedic injunctions, one has to execute his duty in spite of climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of the Kshatriyas, and although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from such prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya or illusion. The two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant here. To address him as Kauntya signifies his great blood relations from his mother's side, and to address him as Bharat signifies his greatness from his father's side. From both sides he is supported to have a great heritage. A great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties, therefore he cannot avoid fighting. Now coming to the 15th Shloka. Krishna continues to say, O best among men, Arjun, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Now coming to the explanation of this shloka. Anyone who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness, is certainly a person eligible for liberation. In the Varnasram institution, the fourth stage of life, namely the renounced order or sannyas, is a painstaking situation. But one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adopts the sannyas order of life in spite of all difficulties. The difficulties usually arise from having to sever family relationships, to give up the connection with the loved ones. But if anyone is able to tolerate such difficulties, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. Similarly, in Arjun's discharge of duties as a Kshatriya, he is advised to persevere, even if it is difficult to fight with his family members or similarly beloved persons. Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at the age of 24, and his dependents had no one else to look after them. Yet for the higher cause he took sannyas and was steady in the discharge of higher duties. So we have completed the first 15 shloks from the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita in this video, and we are going to continue from the 16th shlok in the next video.